a quick pit stop to check my tires and wheels. No matter where you're driving, properly maintained tires can make all the difference in tough weather conditions and when it comes to needing safe stopping power. Book a safety check online to get your tires inspected at a local tire retailer or do a quick tread depth check at home.
A message from the U.S. Tire Manufacturers Association.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour,
if you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind,
walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. We're thrilled you're with us. You can watch us on YouTube, actually. I believe that link is on the 93 WIBC Facebook page. You can also go to YouTube and search for 93 WIBC, and you'll see that streaming live. And you're welcome to do that as well. I haven't pulled it up yet, but there's a chat feature on YouTube, and there are people who go on there and ask questions or make comments. And if I get the time to check that out while I'm also doing live radio, I try to respond to that. Or you can also send me questions or comments on social media. I'm on Facebook at Guy A. Relford, and I'm on Twitter at Guy Relford. And by the way, I've been more active on Twitter here lately, and I'd love to start building my Twitter audience. I've been a little bit neglectful of Twitter. In fact, we had a funny exchange one day. I was complaining about having relatively few Twitter followers, and my producer at the time said, "Well, Guy, do you ever say anything interesting on Twitter?" I said, "Well, no, I'm going to build more of an audience." And they said, "Well, that's not how it works, man. You got to be interesting first, and you build an audience second." And I think that's a fair characterization. But if you're a Twitter user, check that out. It's at Guy Relford on Twitter. I'd appreciate the follow. I'm going to talk a little bit about self-defense. Here this last week, a trial ended down in Travis County, Texas. And this was regarding a shooting that happened in Austin on July 25th of 2020. And this was during what my friends Hammer and Nigel often refer to as the Summer of Love, but it was during all the protests, Black Lives Matter and Antifa, resulting from the death and what ultimately was determined to be the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. And, we saw those riots right here in Indianapolis. We saw businesses gutted. We saw downtown Indianapolis devastated. It's something that still breaks my heart. I'm a longtime Indy area guy to the point where I remember being a little bitty kid and my parents bringing me downtown for the lighting of the lights on the circle and to see the then sort of rudimentary animatronics that you could see in the store windows, like at Ayers and Blocks. And that was a big deal. And I worked downtown for quite some period of time. I still work downtown here at the radio station. We broadcast right here from the circle. And to see Indianapolis devastated the way it was is something that really broke my heart. It made me sad. It made me angry. And a lot of discussion arose after all those riots about the ability to use force in self-defense, or the ability to use force, including deadly force, to defend your property, including your business. Can you use a firearm to defend your business? I mean, a lot of discussions arose out of that. But circling back, let's talk about the trial of Daniel Perry, which I believe just ended Friday. And Daniel Perry was a guy who was, I believe, an Uber driver, one of the ride-sharing services. And he was in Austin on July 25th, and it was during a whole series of protests. And I've seen different videos of Austin that evening. I think it's fair to call it a riot. It was certainly a protest involving a lot of people. And he was in his car, and he came to a particular street. If you're familiar with downtown Austin, I've spent a lot of time in Austin. I had a bunch of cases down there early in my career. 6th Street is kind of like Bourbon Street in New Orleans, but it smells better. I mean, there are a lot of clubs, nightclubs, music places, restaurants, just a really cool area. Now, Austin's gone just incredibly liberal for being a town in Texas. I mean, just crazy liberal. So, okay. University of Texas is there. And you think, well, gosh, it's Texas. It's gone incredibly liberal there, right there in Austin. But anyway, the downtown area is neat. It's beautiful. I love the Texas State Capitol, which is there in Austin. I fell in love with Texans first time I walked in the state capitol down there, and the big, beautiful marble floor under the rotunda of the Texas State Capitol. First of all, they built the rotunda to be exactly 1 foot taller than the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. Well, I respect that. That's kind of cool. They did it intentionally. And then the big, beautiful emblem, insignia there on the marble floor beneath the rotunda doesn't say State of Texas. It says Republic of Texas, which, of course, it was for a period of time. Before becoming a state. And they left it that way, and they left it that way for a reason. So anyway, I've always been fond of Texas, and I've always been fond of Austin, notwithstanding the politics and the direction that town's gone. Well, going back to July 25th, there's a protest going on. And Mr. Perry is downtown, and at one point he sees there's a protest going down one particular street. And he turns toward the protest. And that was a big part of the trial. It just ended, and by the way, flash forward, it ended with his conviction for murder. Not manslaughter, murder. Which means there's some level of premeditation involved. And he turned toward the protesters. As he did so, and there's no real good video of what all happened. So prosecutors, defense lawyers, the jury, were all, by and large, restricted to witness accounts. And the witness accounts vary dramatically. But as Mr. Perry approached the protesters, one of the protesters, named Garrett Foster, by the way, both from what I've seen, both Garrett Foster and Mr. Perry or Daniel Perry are both white guys, if that makes a difference to you. I don't know that the legal issues change much at all. When you look at, for instance, who the protesters were that were involved in the shootings that ultimately were found to be completely justified by Rittenhouse in Wisconsin. But at any rate, as he turns down the street, that is, Perry does, Garrett Foster, one of the protesters, approaches his car carrying an AK-47. Now, just like Indiana, there's no law against being out in public with a long gun. I've been to rallies and whatnot at the state capitol here in Indiana, where a lot of people are carrying their ARs, carrying their AKs. Okay, it's legal here, it's legal in Texas. But Garrett Foster approaches Daniel Perry's vehicle with the AK-47. Daniel Perry says Garrett pointed it at him, at which point he defended himself. And he shot Garrett Foster 5 times. Foster died. And a lot of people looked at this and said, well, obviously that's justified. You're in your car. You're surrounded or at least approached by a whole bunch of protesters. There have been a whole history of violence and property destruction. Across the country, we saw videos of people getting drug out of their cars and beaten or worse. And so Daniel Perry said, as he approached my car and pointed his rifle at me, the only thing I could do was defend myself. And that's what I did, and claim self-defense. The Travis County DA brings charges. Had an 8-day trial, 2 days of deliberation. And a jury comes back and finds him guilty of murder. A lot of people upset by this. A lot of people are saying the jury simply disregarded Texas's law of self-defense. Governor Abbott in Texas says that it appears to him that the jury simply ignored Texas's law of self-defense and that he intends to pardon Daniel Perry, quote unquote, as soon as it hits his desk. That's good news for Mr. Perry. The bad news is, in the meantime, he's been convicted of murder. Well, what are the ins and outs of this? And how does this relate to those of us here in Indiana under Indiana law in similar circumstances? And oh, by the way, there's some discussion. I put this on my social media today, at both Twitter and Facebook. There, at least one knucklehead out there on social media on Twitter was saying, hey, the NRA annual meeting is coming up this week in Indianapolis. And this guy posted, and do me a favor, don't go find this and retweet it or give this idiot any more attention than he already has. This dude had, I looked him up, he has 71 followers. And because people are retweeting what he put on Twitter, his tweet now has, 4,000 or 5,000 views. I'm like, man, if we'd have just ignored this dude, nobody would have seen it. But people who don't like what he said are retweeting it with their own commentary. I screenshot it and put it on my Facebook, and I commented on it on Facebook, but I did not retweet it. But at any rate, this guy said the NRA annual meetings are coming up this week. Might be a good time to start some, quote, good trouble. Hashtag good trouble. So I don't know. I didn't search for what hashtag good trouble means exactly. But I have a feeling if this guy has Antifa or those kind of leanings, that probably means something violent or approaching violent. And I think it's reasonable to assume that. Good trouble. Again, could that simply be exercising your First Amendment right? Sure. It's absolutely protected? Yes. I would fight for anybody's ability to exercise the First Amendment rights. But there's now some discussion of some protests or whatnot, some good trouble, let's just use his term, during the NRA annual meetings. All right, well, let's talk about the riot situation, how the law of self-defense applies, and some things that happened in Daniel Perry's case in Texas that were not helpful. And I talk about these things all the time when I teach my class on Indiana gun law. I call it gun law, but the primary focus is on the law of self-defense. In a 4.5-hour class, we spend a good 2 hours on the law of self-defense. Well, there's some things that happened that evening, some things that Daniel Perry did that were not helpful to his own case and could very likely have been the reason the jury decided to convict him, notwithstanding the fact he had a pretty solid claim of self-defense when he's sitting in traffic during a protest and somebody walks up to his car with an AK-47. We'll get into all of that and take your comments and questions at 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. We'll get into a little more detail on the case of Daniel Perry and what may very likely have contributed to the jury's guilty verdict that came down Friday. Right now, we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
The pothole, formed in colder months. Tiny fissures are born, and in no time at all, they grow into big,
gigantic Tire Killers.
That's why you need Matt Baird Traffic.
Watch out on Keystone Avenue.
He'll guide you around these hidden monsters.
Yeah, might as well call it a basement.
And on to safer ground.
You don't want to be in the far left lane.
Mornings and afternoons on 93 WIBC.
Guy Relford for Premier Arms, located in Brownsburg. Premier Arms has the largest and most diverse selection of new and used firearms in central Indiana, with over 1,500 firearms in stock, from pre-Civil War firearms all the way through modern Class 3 firearms as well. They have the best prices on new and used firearms with a knowledgeable, professional, and courteous sales staff. They're also Indiana's largest Benchmade knife stocking dealer, and I'm a big fan of Benchmade knives. Stop by and see them at 3754 South Green Street in Brownsburg. Give them a call at 317-858-3030, or you can always check them out online at premierarms.com. That's my friends at Premier Arms, located in Brownsburg.
Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays are back, baby, and there is no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/WIBC to sign up. Place your first bet and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. What kind of bets would you make for opening day weekend? Maybe Aaron Judge to pick up where he left off with a home run? Maybe your favorite pitcher to go over with strikeouts? Look, don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/WIBC to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/WIBC. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. 21 plus and present in Indiana. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Get ready to get to Brownsburg for 2 live radio shows and raise some serious cash for Brownsburg Blessing Boxes. Tony Katz here. Saturday, April 15th, Premier Arms in Brownsburg is the place to be. We'll have a live broadcast of my Eat, Drink, Smoke show and then a live 2-hour Gun Guy show raising money for Brownsburg Blessing Boxes. Every donation over $100 gets you eligible to win some amazing prize packs. Join us Saturday from 3 to 7 p.m. at Premier Arms in Brownsburg, 3754 South Green Street. Saturday, 3 to 7 p.m. Premier Arms, be there.
Hubler has it. Savings. Hubler has it. Choices.
Hubler really does have it all. All of our pre-owned vehicles are Hubler Q certified, which include a 128-point vehicle inspection, a free Carfax vehicle history report, and 2 warranties. A 2-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, and a 30-day, 1,000-mile comprehensive warranty. Visit any of our 13 locations today, or click drivehubler.com.
Hubler has it all.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Stoutfield National Guard Armory on West Minnesota Street. The best dealers in the region, hundreds of tables, just $6 for adults, kids 12 and under free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Stoutfield National Guard Armory. For more info, visit CentralIndianaGunShows.com.
Hey, it's JMV and Spring. It's here at Sundown Gardens in Westfield, and right now, Sundown Gardens has 20% off all gift decor in Miss Mary's gift shop. Spruce your home up for the spring with 20% off all gift decor. Sundown has a second location coming later this spring. Miss M's Home and Garden by Sundown Gardens in Bargersville off of State Road 135. For now, visit Sundown Gardens at 186th Street and Spring Mill Road. That's sundown.gardens.com. Again, sundown.gardens.com.
Over 2.8 million Americans have served in our military since 9/11. Many have returned home with devastating injuries and few resources for them and their families. This is news correspondent Bob Woodruff. I sustained a life-threatening injury while reporting from Iraq in 2006. The military had my back that day, and they have each other's while serving. It's time we had theirs. Please join us as part of the Got Your Six initiative. To learn more, go to gotyour6.org using the number 6.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Indianapolis Public Library. More than just books. Visit your local branch today.
second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. We're glad you're with us. We're talking about this case in Texas, Austin, where Daniel Perry just got convicted of murder. And you say, man, hold on. He's ostensibly minding his own business. He's an Uber driver, gets caught up in the middle of a protest. Somebody approaches his car with an AK-47. He defends himself, yet he got found guilty of murder. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Because there were some things leading up to that trial that did not at all help Daniel Perry's case. And it's important to talk about because those of us who were on social media and those of us who discuss issues like self-defense, use of force, and I caution people all the time on this, and people tend to roll their eyes at me or even want to call me names like FUD or wimp or whatever, because I supposedly am not advocating enough or supporting enough their ability to shoot people. But when I caution people on this, I got to tell you, I'm going to start using the specific examples of Daniel Perry's murder case. Because what prosecutors were able to get into evidence, and let's back up a little bit. The rules in virtually every state, including Indiana, I'm going to talk specifically about Indiana laws. We'll use Indiana law as sort of an overlay over the Daniel Perry circumstances. But the law in most jurisdictions, and specifically in Indiana, say there are certain things that prevent you legally from even claiming self-defense. And a jury's told, if you're found, any of these things happen, the defendant cannot successfully claim self-defense. One of those is if you're the initial aggressor. I talk about this every time I teach my gun law class. If you're the initial aggressor. And there's a whole set of these rules, and I call them the you're the bad guy rules. What does that mean? Why do I call them the you're the bad guy rules? Because you can't claim self-defense if you're the bad guy. When does the law say you're the bad guy? Well, the most obvious one is if you're committing a crime or escaping after the commission of a crime. But right after that, it says if you provoke the unlawful action against you, the provocation exception to self-defense. If you provoke someone, and Indiana goes on to say with the intent of hurting them, then you can't claim self-defense. The other is, as I mentioned, initial aggressor. In other words, you started the conflict. And people need to understand this. A jury will be told if you're the initial aggressor, if you instigate the conflict, you can't claim self-defense. People don't understand that. And the other is called a mutual combatant rule. In other words, if you essentially enter into an agreement with another person to have a physical conflict. The best example is, two drunk guys in a bar and one challenges them. Hey, you, parking lot, let's go. I'm kicking your ass. The other one goes, hell yeah, let's go. And they both pump their chests out and they go marching out to the parking lot. What are those two people at that moment? They're mutual combatants. They've agreed to go have a fight. And if one of them hurts the other one and gets prosecuted, he can't claim self-defense. Why? Because he's a mutual combatant. So, provocation, initial aggressor are the ones we should focus on in the context of Daniel Perry. And by the way, I made some of these comments on Twitter today, and immediately people came on and said, "Oh, you're excusing the protesters, and you're siding with the prosecution." And yeah, people are all upset and calling me names, and I just said, "No, you're missing my point. There are some lessons here that we all ought to learn. It's not endorsing the jury's verdict here. But I will tell you there are facts that witnesses testified to. You can reject that testimony. You can find it not credible. You can find it not believable. You can say the jury should have rejected it. But there are facts the jury heard to the extent they found that testimony credible and believed it over conflicting testimony, where they could legitimately convict Daniel Perry. Now, again, people don't like hearing that. Hold on. You're siding with the jury. You're siding with the protesters. I'm not siding with anybody. I'm telling you how the law works. I'm telling you how a jury works. Do I think the jury got this wrong? I think probably so. But we're at the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a break. I'm going to go into some of these facts, and I'm going to tell you about some really knuckleheaded things. I'm sorry, it's knuckleheaded. As a gun owner, someone who keeps a gun in your car, someone who carries a gun, it is knuckleheaded for you to put these kinds of things on the internet. And it never dies, man. Internet lives forever. And I'll get into that. And all of us who use social media and discuss some of these issues, discuss potential upcoming protests, we all ought to be incredibly mindful of, because in my mind, these are the facts that got Daniel Perry convicted of murder in Austin, Texas. We'll continue to take your calls as we always do, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
It's best, Mr. President, that you don't know what you're guilty of. It's best that you not know that these documents pertain to conversations regarding Ukraine, where your son was having business dealings and making millions of dollars, and now they, meaning the free and thinking world, can connect your classified document, the classified documents in your possession, to things that may exist on your son's laptop.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Indianapolis, do you have old, ugly, or even damaged concrete? Not sure what to do about it, but you know you need to do something? Well, you need to call Galaxy Concrete Coatings. This product is out of this world, and it's right here in Indianapolis. And just in time to give your concrete floors a transflormation. Galaxy Concrete Coatings is 4 times stronger than epoxy. It's designed to not only work on your garage floor, but you can use it on driveways, walkways, around your pool or patio, commercial or residential. And it's UV resistant, which means it will not yellow. And even better, it can be ready to go in about 24 hours. Click on GalaxyConcreteCoatings.com or call 317-751-9070. Indy, you're ready for a transflormation. Call Galaxy Concrete Coatings today, 317-751-9070. Galaxy Concrete Coatings. They are out of this world.
Planning for retirement all comes down to what matters most for you. Is it a vacation home? Is it traveling the globe? You could call the team at Howard Bailey Financial to help you plan for your retirement and to help you have a successful and fulfilling retirement. Great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people, and I'm excited to share that Singer Financial is now Howard Bailey Financial, an Indiana-based retirement planning firm.
The Howard Bailey team possesses credibility at both an ethical and professional standpoint. They will deliver you a customized framework that allows you to create the meaning of retirement. Whatever you visualize retirement to be, let the Howard Bailey team customize a plan specifically for you. If you're ready for your best retirement, come forward and see the Howard Bailey difference.
Investment advisory services may be offered through Howard Bailey Securities, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Working with Howard Bailey Securities, LLC cannot guarantee investment success or that specific financial goals will be achieved.
Fox News, I'm Joe Giro. U.S. Army Sergeant Daniel Perry is found guilty of murder for the 2020 shooting of Austin protester Garrett Foster.
Garrett Foster's death sparked even more protests. He was reported to have demonstrated during Black Lives Matter protests nearly every day during that summer of 2020. And so while Perry was found guilty of murder, he was acquitted of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Sentencing is expected to take place next week.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff. This holiday weekend will cost drivers more.
We're nearing the summer driving season, which increases demand and prices. As of Saturday, the national average for regular was $3.70 $1.60 a gallon, according to AAA. That's up nearly 10 cents in 1 week, but still less than a year ago, when it was more than $4 a gallon. $4.14 to be exact.
Fox's Carmen Roberts. America is listening. Fox News.
At Shane Company, we know that when it comes to jewelry, everyone has their own sense of style. With the largest selection of unique fine jewelry, it will be easy to find something perfect for you. I'm a Shane Company jewelry consultant, and I love helping people find something that speaks to them. Every piece here is special, made with love and care. At Shane Company, we're known for our stunning sapphires. We have every color of the rainbow. Choose a style with your favorite sapphire color, or choose one of our other beautiful gemstones like deep blue tanzanite or red ruby. If you gravitate to bold classics, our diamond hoop earrings and yellow gold chains really stand out. Maybe you prefer a more subtle look, like a simple gold band for stacking or a dainty necklace with a sparkling diamond. At Shane Company, we have jewelry for every personality. If you need some ideas, talk to one of us. We don't work on commission, so you'll never feel rushed. Visit us and have fun wearing jewelry that's an expression of you.
Now you have a friend in the jewelry business. Shane Company and ShaneCo.com.
Pat Sullivan here. April showers can bring plumbing downers. Don't get caught in a leak this spring. Make sure your sump pump is working properly to avoid any damage. A sump pump is vital to protecting your home from heavy rains. During the month of April, my friends at Hope Plumbing will buy back your old sump pump for $300 with the purchase of an upgraded sump pump and a new battery backup system. Call Hope Plumbing today or visit them online at hopeplumbing.com.
Are your investments going nowhere? Here's a tip that always pays big dividends. Invest in yourself, your talent, your smarts, your skills. Maybe it's time to make that investment and start a career in IT or upskill to boost your current career. At My Computer Career, you can bank on us. We'll help you get the right skills and the right certifications to start or advance your IT career. IT keeps growing, so go with the growth at My Computer Career. The right training, the right timing, the right career. Invest in you at mycomputercareer.edu. Start now.
The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. We're thrilled you're with us. And we're talking about this case in Texas. And specifically, we're talking about some things that Daniel Perry did not do to help his cause. And this is beforehand. This is before the night of the actual shooting. It was in July of 2020 during a protest. And he went out on social media, on Facebook. And one of the things he wrote was, quote, and this is, by the way, coming out of an article on The Guardian, so take it for what it's worth. But this is supposedly coming from evidence actually submitted at trial. And we'll talk about why this ultimately was found to be admissible at trial. But on May 31st of the same year, he posted, "I might have to kill a few people on my way to work. They are rioting outside my apartment complex." Then he posted a link to a video. It was a news account, apparently. And the story was protester looters get shot in San Antonio. And he posted, "Glad someone finally did something." That's not too horrible. Glad someone finally did something. But when you look at the prosecution's theory of this case, and by the way, there were others, where he was posting, talking about shooting protesters. The theory of the prosecution's case is that Daniel Perry was driving essentially past a protest. He had a decision. He could go straight and to a large degree avoid the protest, or he could turn right and go toward the protesters. He did the latter. He turned toward the protesters. Other protesters who witnessed the events say when they saw the car approaching them, they felt threatened by the car. Now, you can believe that, you cannot believe it. You can say that's all BS. They're protesters, so by definition, they're going to support the person who got shot. By definition, they're going to be antagonistic towards the guy who does not sympathize with the looters. And that's all true in terms of where their sympathies would lie. But the theory of the case is that he had an attitude, he had an inclination toward vengeance or toward violence toward protesters. When he saw the protesters, he made the decision to approach them. Approaching the protest in his car was when ultimately the quote-unquote victim walked up to his car carrying a rifle. That's when Daniel Perry shot Garrett Foster. So you unpack all of that, and the jury was told by the prosecutors, this isn't a case of self-defense. This is a guy who was angry about the protest, who multiple times posted violent or threatening messages on Facebook. He was looking to do what he did. He found an excuse to do it, and he killed someone. I'm not saying that's true. If you're just tuning into this, if you're listening to this, please. I ran into this on social media when I'm trying to explain the downside to saying things like that on social media, if you're involved in a shooting after the fact. And people come out and say, oh, you're excusing the protesters' conduct. Oh, you're excusing the violent protesters. Oh, you don't support the law of self-defense. I'm sorry. These are people on social media, I'm sure, who don't listen to my radio show, who don't know what I do for a living, don't know how hard I fought to improve the law of self-defense in Indiana, including writing word for every word in our self-defense immunity law. I wrote it, and we got it passed in 2019. So this is nothing about not supporting the law of self-defense or nothing with siding with protesters. I'm telling you how you can get yourself convicted of a crime when you otherwise might not. And here, if you want to dissect this, the first thing you got to point to in terms of contributing to the reason he was ultimately convicted. And you want to say the jury was biased? Sure. It's Austin. It's a liberal area. The prosecutor should have never prosecuted him. It was a liberal activist prosecutor. And I don't know whether this particular prosecutor was funded by George Soros, for instance, who's out spending millions and millions of dollars to get liberal prosecutors elected all across the country. I have no idea whether that applies to this case or not, but you want to say that? Okay. This could be a biased liberal prosecutor. This could be a biased jury. There could have been witness after witness who lied because they were prejudiced in favor of the person who got shot and prejudiced against Daniel Perry, the defendant. Take that for what it's worth. But what Daniel Perry did not do to help himself is he, first of all, did not avoid the conflict. And people in my gun law class all the time, we're talking about the law of self-defense, we'll talk about defending yourself in a vehicle. And somebody says, man, Guy, if you see a protest, you're in your car, what should you do? And my first answer to that, and there are hundreds, if not a couple thousand people out there right now that have taken my gun law class, so just in the last couple of years, I say avoid it. Get the hell away. There's a no-win situation for you. You don't want to put yourself in the middle of a bunch of protesters. But secondly, and again, well, I have the right to drive where I want to drive. Yes, you do. There's legal and there's smart. And if you avoid a conflict, you know what? You don't ever go to jail for the results of a conflict that never happens. And that avoidance is huge. It's huge. Secondly, he put arguably violent or threatening posts on social media. And look, I understand a lot of people, including my fellow gun owners, like to talk tough on social media. You want to talk about how you're a law and order person, right? You're a law and order guy. You're a law and order lady. You'll defend what's yours. with force if necessary. I get it. I've been teaching self-defense in addition to the law of self-defense for a lot longer than a lot of people who've been alive in this state. I'm all about it. That's what I do for a living. That's what I support. That's what I advocate for. That's what I fight for. But we can put ourselves in a much better position if we don't do things that are knuckleheaded, like demonstrating a propensity or an inclination toward violence on social media. And when you say, I might have to kill some people leaving my apartment today because there are protests going on, that doesn't help you if you end up shooting someone. Why? Because it directly supported the prosecutor's theory of the case, which is he wasn't defending himself. He was looking for a fight. He was looking for protesters to shoot. And it is not a completely unreasonable interpretation of the Facebook post to come out and say that. Now, again, did he mean it? Was he really violent? Was this legitimate self-defense? And he just got caught up in a bad situation? That is all completely plausible. And somebody approaches my car in the middle of a protest / riot, and he's carrying an AK-47, I'm going to have a gun damn ready to defend myself. God forbid, and my family if they're in the vehicle. So I'm not siding with the protesters here. I'm not siding with the prosecutor. I want to explain to people how you can take a legitimate claim of self-defense and still get convicted because of what you've done, what you've said, what you've posted, which is not helpful to you or your lawyers in the event, God forbid, you get caught up in a self-defense scenario. It's an important point. Well, Governor Abbott has chimed in. We'll get into that when we come back and talk a little bit about NRA annual meetings and talk about the Indiana law of self-defense and how it applies to this protest or riot situation. It's an important discussion. I talk about it for a lot longer in the classes I teach, but it's an important discussion, especially since at least one knucklehead, if I had to guess, nothing will come of this, but hey, it'd be naive not to expect something different. At least one knucklehead out on social media is talking about causing quote-unquote good trouble here in Indianapolis during the upcoming NRA annual meeting. It starts this Thursday. Actually, some events even start Wednesday into the weekend this coming week right here in downtown Indianapolis. We'll get into all of that and go to the phone lines when we come back. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
Tom Brady, his 10-year-old daughter hijacked his Instagram account. She started posting pictures of their new cat. Tom finally got his phone back and came out and said, yes, I'm now a cat dad.
Do you remember when things that people were interested in actually used to be things that were worthy of being interested in?
It's also kind of frightening that his 10-year-old got into his account.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our next Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class is coming up on a Thursday evening. A lot of folks have asked us to have the class on a weekday evening so they don't have to give up a Saturday morning. And we're doing just that on May 11th. Thursday, May 11th, 5 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. at Indy Arms Company, conveniently located at 2550 East 55th. That's right there just east of Keystone on 55th Street on the northeast side of Indy. This is 4.5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner, including a very detailed discussion of the law of self-defense right here in Indiana. You can go yourself or take someone with you. It's an individual application, an individual registration, I should say, is $50, $95 for couples. We'd love to see you there. Again, $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. It's Essentials of Indiana Gun Law coming up on Thursday, May 11th. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
I asked what kind of family she wanted. She said, a family like yours.
Learn more about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You had a solid retirement dream. Sell your home in a few years, bank the equity, downsize, and travel. But inflation and recession has you wondering if all of your hard-earned equity will still be there. What if you could recession-proof your equity right now? You can with TrueHold. TrueHold will buy your home for its best current value before a recession can erode it. You get to bank all the cash now and live in your home for as long as you want. And TrueHold covers all property taxes, insurance, repairs, and maintenance. And since TrueHold pays your home's current value in cash now, it's yours to do whatever you'd like. Don't wait for inflation, recession, and interest rates to erode your home's value. Visit TrueHold.com and discover how much TrueHold will buy your home for today based on its best current value, not what's coming. Call 1-855-300-9993 or visit TrueHold.com. The smarter, fastest way to cash out on your home's value without having to move. That's TrueHold.com.
Where are your life's most important memories stored? In your basement, right? Cracks in your foundation and high humidity could mean water's coming in your basement, eventually causing flooding, and you'll lose all your precious photos and memories. Crossroads Foundation Repair travels all over the region, repairing foundations with the highest quality service. Call now and get a free sump pump with full basement waterproofing system. Read our 5-star reviews at crossroadsfoundationrepair.com and call 844-975-6735.
Hey folks, it's Abdul, and I'm running for mayor of Indianapolis. Now, I lived in the city for nearly 20 years. I've seen the city at its best, and I've seen Indy at its worst, and lately, been a lot more worse. Record murders and record potholes. We can't expect different results if we re-elect the same people who are responsible for our city's problems. So go to AbdulForindy.com and read about our plans to take a tough but smart approach to dealing with crime. Read about our creative approach to dealing with road funding, and learn how we can restore public trust in government. Everyone, regardless of zip code, deserves the right to live in a neighborhood with safe streets and good roads. It's time to try something different. Paid for by Abdul for Indy.
Hey, you got any gum?
Yeah, check my backpack.
What's this?
Oh, that's naloxone. It can reverse an opioid overdose. I decided to always keep it on me after my friend almost died. It saved his life.
Oh, wow. I'm so sorry. That makes me want to have it with me, too.
You totally should. Check the pharmacy. It was actually really easy to get, and it's easy to use.
I definitely will. Thanks.
Naloxone saves lives. Learn more at cdc.gov/stopoverdose.
Prescription opioids can be addictive and dangerous.
I was given a prescription opioid pain medication, and within only a few months, I was completely addicted. I lost everything. I had to leave school and stop playing sports in college, and I started to watch my life slip away. I want people to know that these drugs are addictive. One prescription can be all it takes to lose everything.
Prescription opioids. It only takes a little to lose a lot. Visit cdc.gov/RxAwareness.
I'd rather be folding laundry.
This is gonna be fun.
Said no one ever. Also, no one enjoys wasting time in traffic. That's why we love saving you time. Matt Baird Traffic.
Backups are already starting.
On 93 WIBC. Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. I'll tell you what, before we get back in and wrap up the discussion on the situation in Austin, we've had Chris who called in some time ago. Chris, welcome to The Gun Guy Show, man. What you got for us?
I just had a question about that video clip of Kid Rock shooting those cases of Bud Light.
Yeah.
I just wondered about the gun that he used. Is that gun legal to own? 'Cause if so, I want one.
Yeah. Well, if anybody hasn't seen the video, and Chris, thanks for calling. It's a full auto. It's a machine gun. And yeah, I mean, machine guns are legal to own in the U.S. If you have an FFL, a federal firearms license, and you're authorized in dealing in what we call Class 3 firearms, then you can possess them for your own purpose. You can't sell them except to another person who has the same type of license. But secondly, if the machine gun was manufactured before, it's April of 1986, because essentially automatic firearms were banned in 1986, but there was an exemption for anything that was already in private hands. So if you can find one that goes back that far, then you can buy it. Now, as you might guess, being that limited, they're incredibly expensive. But clearly that isn't a problem for Kid Rock. So if I had to guess, I doubt that he's an FFL SOT quote unquote, that would allow him to have a more modern machine gun. If I had to guess, it's more likely that that's a pre-ban fully automatic firearm. And I haven't tried that hard to identify the particular firearm from the video we posted. But if I had to guess, that's a pre-ban machine gun. And you can it's an FFL, it's a NFA item, meaning it's regulated by the National Firearms Act. So you have to go through the whole NFA registration process. But if you do that, you can own a machine gun. Machine guns aren't illegal as long as you go through that NFA registration process, and it's a pre-ban machine gun. They're just few and far between, so they're very, very expensive. But in the meantime, we'll wrap up the discussion of what happened in Austin, and specifically the idea that this gentleman has been convicted. He was convicted as much for what he posted on social media, where he indicated a willingness to shoot people who were protesting at the time. And yes, we've all got First Amendment rights. There's what's constitutional, there's what's legal, what you're able to do, and there's what's smart. And where you've gone out and posting these things, it did not help him. Now, the good news is, if you favor the law of self-defense and you believe he was unjustly convicted, because he was just convicted of murder, if you believe that that's unfair or unjust, Governor Abbott down there just came out and said, I'm going to pardon this guy at the absolute first opportunity. And someone just needs to tell me exactly what the timing is for when I can step in and give this guy a pardon. So he may go home at the end of the day. But for right now, he's been convicted by a jury of murder, and in large part, that's because he didn't avoid the conflict when he could, and because of knuckleheaded things he'd posted on social media. Those are important points we all need to keep in mind for those of us who carry guns. In the meantime, we're coming up to the end of the first hour. It's time to take a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Dr. Trudy Fleer here with the 5G Home Recovery Podcast. Let's talk about mobile users getting priority over T-Mobile home internet users, shall we? You don't know them. Why should they take your internet? I get it. We're raised to share. But always coming in second, paying to be taken advantage of? No thank you. With Xfinity, there's only one priority, and that is YOU. So come on, people, say yes to Xfinity. Learn more at xfinity.com/TMOFax.
Now through April 23rd, new customers can get started with 200 megabit per second Xfinity internet with Wi-Fi equipment included. It's all just $25 a month for 2 years with no annual contract. Or learn more about speeds up to a gig. That's up to 36 times faster than T-Mobile home internet. Go to xfinity.com/TMOFax, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular internet rates apply. Actual speeds vary.
Premier Deck Coating, the ultimate deck protection. Who are they? Well, they're a sister company of Rhino Shield, and Premier Deck Coating is the product you need if you're tired of applying the same old stain and paint every couple of years to your deck. It's Terry, Stacy, and David and I have a deck that's probably 25 years old. The countless hours and the money that we spend on maintaining that deck never ends. And then we heard about Premier Deck Coating, family-owned, based right here in Indy, and they are going to completely transform our deck with their special formulated product, which repels moisture, scratch-resistant in virtually any color that we want, and backed by a 10-year guarantee. No more spending time staining or painting every year. Premier Deck Coating will keep our deck looking great for years to come. Premier Deck Coating can also do fences and pergolas, too. For a free quote, call 317-696-4071 or visit premierdeckcoating.com.
AE Ammo is Greenwood's ammunition superstore. The largest variety in training, hunting, and self-defense ammo with the best prices locally guaranteed. Factory new 9mm FMJ ammo starting at $12 per 50-round box. Factory new 50-round boxes, $380 from $14.99 and 45 ACP from $18.99. And with the AE Ammo Customer Rewards Program, start earning points today towards money back to use on future purchases. Shop in-store or online at aeammo.com.
Housing discrimination because of race, color, or national origin is against the law. If you believe you've experienced housing discrimination, contact HUD at hud.gov/fair housing.
Emmer and Nigel here, inviting you to join us as we kick off the weekend every Friday around 5:45 with Beer Sample Friday, brought to you by our friends at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
Woodard M. Hart, Henry, Reeves, and Wagner. Over 140 years specializing exclusively in patent, trademark, trade secret, and copyright law and litigation. On the web at uspatent.com.
Broadcasting from the Peterman Brothers Heating, Plumbing, and Electrical Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Tensions ratcheting up between China and Taiwan. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News. The Taiwanese military says more than 70 Chinese Army jets and 9 Navy ships entered the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan says it's a show of force in response to U.S. lawmakers and the Taiwanese president meeting. Michigan Democratic Representative Debbie Dingell.
I think we all understand the strategic importance of Taiwan to this country. We also understand and defend democracies around the world. China is a world power. I want to see us in a very strength detente position with Russia, China, and the United States.
Frictions increased between the U.S. and China since then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan last August. Tensions also escalating in the Middle East. The Israeli military says 3 rockets were launched from Syria toward Israeli territory, but it says only one made it into Israel, landing at a field in the Golan Heights. Earlier Saturday, a 20-year-old Palestinian was killed in the northern occupied West Bank when the military opened fire on Palestinians, hurling stones and explosive devices at troops. 2 juveniles have been arrested in Marion County, Florida, and officials are looking for a third in connection to the fatal shootings of 3 other teens.
Now, back on March 30th, deputies discovered 16-year-old Layla Silvernail shot in the head and dying at a construction site. The sheriff says the attackers drove off in her white Chevy and at some point less than a mile away discarded the body of a 17-year-old male victim. And then on Saturday, detectives found the Chevy partially submerged in a body of water with the third victim in the trunk.
Fox's C.B. Cotton. Pope Francis presided over the Easter Vigil Mass in St. Peter's Basilica. The pontiff was recently released from the hospital for treatment of bronchitis. America is listening to Fox News.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
5 inches of rain by tomorrow.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com. Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Looking for more answers. Clear overnight, headed into a mild and sunny Easter Sunday. I'm Sasha Nixon. Here's what's trending this hour. The Hendricks County Sheriff's Office is investigating after a body was found in a creek Friday night. The body was found in a creek on County Road 750 East near Plainfield. At this time, it has not been identified. The HCSO sent an update Saturday morning saying the body could be a bit difficult to identify as it was in less than pristine condition. It was taken to the Hendricks County morgue and an autopsy was scheduled for Saturday. President Biden's administration this week blamed the chaotic exit from Afghanistan 2 years ago on Donald Trump. Harrison Silcox reports on an Indiana congressman who disagrees.
Republican Jim Banks believes this is an example of the Biden administration failing to take responsibility.
It might have been the most sickening moment of my entire time in Congress to understand just to see firsthand the arrogance of this administration. They will not take responsibility for what happened.
Talking to WIBC's Hammer and Nigel, the White House revealed a report of the evacuation Thursday, saying they were constrained by the actions of former President Trump. Harrison Silcox, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
In honor of National Zoo Lovers Day, the Indianapolis Zoo tweeted a message of appreciation Saturday. The organization wrote, "We're so grateful for the love and support of all the zoo lovers in our community." The zoo will also be slowly introducing Mara, a chimpanzee from Puerto Rico, to its other chimps, so she will soon be part of the zoo family. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now here's the forecast from the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
For tonight, clear skies, low temperature dropping to 38 degrees. Tomorrow, beautiful Easter Sunday. Sunny skies throughout the day, high temperature of 66 degrees. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
I always had to be so good, no one could ignore me. Carve my path with data and drive. But some people only see who I am on paper. The paper ceiling, the limitations from degree screens to stereotypes that are holding back over 70 million stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes, rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time for skills to speak for themselves. Find resources for breaking through barriers at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
This week, it's 20% off all gift decor in Miss Mary's Gift Shop at Sundown Gardens in Westfield, 186th Street and Spring Mill Road, sundowngardens.com. That's sundowngardens.com.
Indy Humane. Find your new best friend today. Visit indyhumane.org.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back to hour number 2 of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. We're glad you're with us. And in discussing this shooting during the protests, if not riots, in Austin that just resulted in the Uber driver who says he was defending himself against a violent protester with an AK-47, he was convicted. Now, Governor Abbott down there just came out and said he's going to pardon him at his first opportunity. So he may likely still go free, but there are lessons to be learned in that. And it comes to mind when looking at some things that I just saw on social media today, and I took a screenshot of it, as I mentioned at the top of the show, because I didn't want to drive anybody to this person's actual Twitter account. But some knucklehead on Twitter posted, and this is some guy with under 100 followers, so it's not like he's got a huge following. And that's another reason why I don't want to drive any more traffic to his Twitter account. But he posted, the NRA annual convention is in Indianapolis, April 14 to 16, 2023. Might be a good place to start some, quote, good trouble, end quote. And then hashtag Occupy Indy NRA. And you read this and you're thinking, okay, listen. And again, I mentioned this at the top of the show. I make a living out of defending all constitutional rights. Obviously, I have a focus on the Second Amendment. But the First Amendment is no less vital to this country. And if anybody wants to show up and peacefully protest the NRA or the people who are attending the convention, the annual meeting is what NRA calls it, then knock yourself out. Exercise your constitutional rights. It begs the question, of course, of what exactly is, quote-unquote, good trouble. If good trouble is just loudly exercising your First Amendment rights, I I'm all for it. Go for it. You won't bother me. I'm going to be there for a lot, if not necessarily all, of that annual meeting. It starts this Thursday with some preliminary events happening Wednesday evening. It's going to be primarily in the convention center, downtown Indy. And let me pause there and talk a little bit about NRA and NRA annual meeting. Look, I've been fairly vocal about having an issue with the very top leadership of NRA. The leadership, in particular, of Wayne LaPierre. Some of the details that have come out about his spending, his travel expenses, about him billing the NRA for massive quantities of money for things like tailor-made suits and vacations and some things. It bothers me. And it bothers me, one, because I don't want my money going to send this guy on vacations, but separately, it bothers me because we need NRA. NRA is vitally important. And people have a lot of problems with NRA. People will criticize the NRA because, for instance, they see the NRA compromising. And has the NRA compromised? Yes. The NRA came out after the Las Vegas shooting and said they essentially invited Congress to go in and pass a law, and in terms, ultimately this happened not with a law, but with ATF, and this is what NRA invited. They said, we think ATF ought to take a look at bump stocks and whether they ought to be legal or not. And the ATF essentially banned them, and this is under President Trump. So this is President Trump and NRA who were complicit in this, who said, let's ban bump stocks, and not through an act of Congress, but through ATF regulation. Now, at least one federal court, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, has found that to be unenforceable, that it was exercise of legislative authority by an agency which doesn't pass laws or change laws. It's supposed to only implement the law and enforce the law. 3 other federal circuits have found that to be just fine and upheld it. But NRA supported that. And NRA, and I've talked to leadership at NRA, not Wayne LaPierre individually, but others who have said, hey, we had more to lose, like a potential resurrection of the assault weapon ban, since multiple quote-unquote assault weapons, as liberals like to label them, were used in the Las Vegas shooting. And we had more to lose. So, yeah, we compromised and we gave up bump stocks. Nobody much likes bump stocks, so it was a good trade. Hey, look, I think bump stocks are stupid. You essentially sacrifice accuracy for rate of fire. I don't think that's a good trade. I would not own a bump stock. I make fun of people historically who would bring bump stocks to my range when I ran Eagle Creek Pistol Range. I'm no fan of bump stocks, but at the same time, it's not a situation where you can appease these people and make them happy so they go away. It's just the opposite. It's letting the camel's nose under the tent is a better metaphor. So a lot of people are upset about NRA over that. People are still upset, going all the way back to 1986 with the so-called Hughes Amendment, when the NRA supported a compromise to essentially outlaw or ban machine guns that were not either imported or manufactured prior to April of 1986. The NRA was involved in that compromise because there were those who wanted more strict gun control than that. So they gave one thing to avoid worse gun control. A lot of people are critical of that. And listen, you can be critical of NRA. I can be critical of Wayne LaPierre's personal spending. I can be critical of compromises they've reached. But what I always say in terms of NRA, and by the way, do I think the ultimate leadership of NRA should be revisited? Would I like to see a different leader of NRA? Yes, I would. I think Wayne LaPierre's lost credibility. But in the meantime, what I always will say, and this is vitally important. By the way, one of the reasons I started the 2A project is because I didn't want to lose any momentum. I didn't want to lose any protection right here in Indiana for Second Amendment rights when the NRA was going through some tough times. The NRA getting sued in Washington and in New York for essentially misuse of membership funds, for some of these exorbitant travel expenses and other expenses. And then they had their tax status put in jeopardy. But all that having been said, I'm still a member of NRA. I'm a benefactor level member of NRA. Why? Because we need a strong, well-funded NRA. We need that at the national level. We do. Is the current NRA as strong as it could be? No. Has it been mismanaged at the very top? I think so. But make no mistake, we need a strong, influential NRA as gun owners. And there's just no question about that. I've been to most of the NRA annual meetings over the last 7 or 8, 9 years. They're coming here every 5 years. Or is that 4? Yeah, it'll be 4. Because they were here in 2019. Now they're coming back into 2023. The NRA annual meeting, however you feel about NRA, and again, I'm still a member. I still support the NRA. I've been saying I'm not sending them any more money until I see a change in national leadership. But we need NRA, and we need a strong, influential, powerful NRA. There's no question about that. Because there are way too many forces and way too much money pouring in on the other side trying to strip our rights away. But the annual meeting's coming up here the 14th to the 16th. And here you got at least one person saying, well, this might be a good time to start some good trouble in downtown Indy with a hashtag Occupy Indy NRA. We'll talk a little more about that. We'll talk about what I think an appropriate response to this is, if any response at all. And as well as taking your questions and comments as well. You want to talk about NRA? You want to talk about your views? You want to argue with me on my idea that we still need to support NRA in the sense that we need a strong, well-funded NRA? Feel free. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. I'll also tell you why right here in Indiana, why we have some reason for hope, I think, in terms of some positive and influential changes within the leadership of NRA. We'll talk about that when we come back as well. Right now, we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
The pothole. Formed in colder months, tiny fissures are born. And in no time at all, they grow into big, gigantic tire killers. That's why you need Matt Baird Traffic.
Watch out on Keystone Avenue.
He'll guide you around these hidden monsters.
Yeah, might as well call it a basement.
And on to safer ground.
You don't want to be in the far left lane.
Mornings and afternoons on 93 WIBC.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our next Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class is coming up Thursday, May 11th. This is going to be on a Thursday evening, 5 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. It's going to be at Indy Arms, right there just east of 55th and Keystone. We'd love to see you there. This class always sells out. We just had one a couple of weekends ago. It sold out as well. I'm sure this one will, so we'd love to see you there. Reserve your seat. You can go to tactical-firearms.com and just click on upcoming courses. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples, and this is 4.5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. Again, you can register right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing in me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new plan. Nothing is everything.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Stoutfield National Guard Armory on West Minnesota Street. The best dealers in the region, hundreds of tables, just $6 for adults, kids 12 and under free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Stoutfield National Guard Armory. For more info, visit CentralIndianaGunShows.com.
Nobody cares for you like family. Family Heating and Air.
Hey, this is Malia. We often get asked when is the best time to buy, and the answer is today, not tomorrow. With rising utility costs, rising product costs, and missed opportunity costs, which you could be saving with a high-efficiency system. Give us a call today to schedule your free in-depth estimate, 317-577-8077.
Family Heating and Air is your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Hubler really does have it all. All of our pre-owned vehicles are Hubler Q certified, which include a 128-point vehicle inspection, a free Carfax vehicle history report, and 2 warranties. A 2-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, and a 30-day, 1,000-mile comprehensive warranty. Visit any of our 13 locations today, or click drivehubler.com. Hubler has it all.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer.
In response to attacks against Asian Americans, Maddie Park raised over $250,000 to donate cab rides to the Asian community.
There is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
Support the Asian community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
We're all different. 1 in 5 of us live with a mental illness. Don't filter who you are. Talk to someone you trust. Learn more at bringchangetomind.org. Through their service, veterans have our backs. Now we should have theirs. Learn more at gotyoursix.org.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. We're thrilled you're with us. So the NRA annual meetings coming up this week. And by the way, however you feel about NRA, and look, I still support them. I want them to reform. I mentioned before the break, good reason to be a bit optimistic about NRA, at least from our perspective here as Hoosiers, is we now have 3 people from Indiana who are on the board of directors. Now, it's a big board. There's a lot of board members. But Charlie Hiltunen is also president of the Indiana State Rifle and Pistol Association, good friend of mine. Senator Jim Toms, who wrote our preemption law. He's down from Poseyville, down by Evansville. And Jim's been one of the leading proponents of Second Amendment rights in Indiana for a long time, and a good man. He and I have had our differences from time to time, but I like Jim, and he's done an awful lot for Indiana gun owners in terms of protecting, preserving, and even advancing our rights. Our preemption law is one of the most important laws we have, where it says local governments can't regulate firearms with only limited exceptions. And Jim Toms wrote that. He got it passed, and it wasn't easy, because a lot of local governments fought very hard to be able to regulate firearms. So Jim is now on the NRA board as well, and it's great to have that Indiana presence. So we need a strong, powerful NRA, and I'm excited. I'm always excited when the NRA annual meeting comes to Indy. I've been to several in other cities. I've been to Nashville, been to Louisville, been to Atlanta, been to Houston. And the fact that it's back with COVID being more or less behind us, it's back to full strength. I'm really looking forward to the annual meetings. I'm going to spend a lot of time down there during the meetings to the extent I can get away from work a little bit here and there. But we need a strong, powerful NRA. But during these meetings, even if you're someone who's decided you don't support the NRA, and listen, a lot of people have come to the 2A Project, the group that I started in 2020. A lot of folks came to the 2A Project because they wanted something Indiana-based and focused on the rights of Hoosiers, as well as federal law to the extent it impacts us here, and I appreciate that a lot. But look, they're not mutually exclusive. We all only have so much disposable income. I get it, but in terms of supporting multiple organizations, I'm not giving up my NRA membership anytime soon, not by a long stretch. But I'm excited when they come here. But as I started to say, no matter how you feel about NRA, is the exhibitors, the vendors. I mean, it's a wonderful collection of self-defense and firearms related displays and merchants, exhibitors. It was fun last time they were here. NRA TV has since imploded as part of NRA's reorganization and some disputes they had with their advertising agency. But I used to be a weekly guest on NRA TV, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. And I did NRA TV. I did three or four different segments down there. Did my show live from the NRA annual meeting. Next weekend, I'm actually doing live radio from a remote broadcast, but it's not going to be actually in the meeting. Tony Katz and I are both going to be at a Premier Arms, a great sponsor, great advertiser here on WIBC. And Tony and I are actually going to be at Premier Arms. We hope a lot of people break away from the annual meeting and come out and join us there. But the annual meeting is fabulous, man. A lot of new guns and gear. The SHOT Show in Las Vegas, which is earlier in the year, that's really for members of the industry. That's for FFLs, federal firearms licensees, vendors, manufacturers, instructors, people that run gun ranges. It's sort of the professional organization. NRA's for the grassroots member. And the vendors are going to be there. They'll have a bunch of new products, whether it's guns or safes or accessories or optics or whatever. And it's acres and acres and acres. It's the whole convention center. And I'm excited for it. I always am. But that brings us back to the discussion, which is that at least one guy out on social media is saying it might be a good time for some good trouble to instigate against NRA or against NRA members or other people here in downtown Indy under the hashtag Occupy Indy NRA. And listen, do I think that's going to manifest itself? No. We've seen counter protests every time NRA annual meeting's been here. It's been here 2 other times if my memory serves. And hey, protest away, man. First Amendment, right? It's right up there with the Second. And they have constitutional rights just like we do. But let's say, and I'm not predicting this at all. In fact, I'm predicting just the opposite. I think the counter protests or counter gatherings of whatever form, just like in past years, I think won't amount to anything at all. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that they turn into more of a violent type protest. Let's say the crowds get out of hand. Let's say they get a bunch of these Antifa type people in town whose job it is, whose mission it is, whose clear goal it is to start violence, to start riots. We saw it in 2020. We saw it right here in Indianapolis. And here's at least one knucklehead with only a handful of followers calling on people to come in and start quote-unquote good trouble here in Indianapolis. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it'll be much ado about nothing in terms of counter-protests or anything along those lines. That's my prediction, and I hope I'm right. But let's say I'm not. Let's say this good trouble, as this guy's talking about on social media, let's say that turns into a real protest. Something along the lines of what we saw after the prosecutions and the not guilty verdicts in particular, or excuse me, guilty verdicts, I should say, but even after the the killing of George Floyd is what I meant to say. That we saw these all across the country, right, including right here in Indianapolis. We saw protests that turned into riots with a lot of destruction, a lot of violence. People lost their lives. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, just as a hypothetical, that starts breaking out here in downtown Indianapolis. And you're down here. You're in your car. You get caught in the middle of a protest. What's Indiana law say about your ability to defend yourself, defend your vehicle? And what are some lessons we can learn from what just happened in Austin, Texas, and the conviction for murder of Daniel Perry, who shot a protester who was approaching his car, he's an Uber driver, with an AK-47. We'll get into all those things when we come back. Right now, we're approaching the bottom of the hour. We, again, want to take your calls and questions as we always do here on the Gun Guy Show. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. We'll be right back. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Noble Romans, I think one of the original ones is still open on 10th Street on the west side by Ben Davis.
Yeah.
That's one of the OGs of pizza places. Walking up on those little steps and you can watch them make the pizza through the giant window.
Because I saw an ad for that 10th Street Noble Romans, and I looked at the monster, and I thought, you know what? That's a pretty damn scary monster.
Right, that blue thing with the green nose.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
It's Hammer and Nigel for Window Nation. Everyone loves a smart investment, and there is no better place to put your money right now than in your home. Window Nation has the perfect offer for anyone with a home at least 20 years old. Protect and increase the value of your home and energy efficiency by installing new Window Nation windows. Window Nation is making it insanely easy to do so with 0% interest for 5 years. Plus, Window Nation will give you 2 windows free with every 2 you purchase.
Go with the window company that has installed nearly 2 million windows, including mine, by installers with over a decade of experience using only top-of-the-line installation materials, which is why 96% of all installations require no follow-up service. Call Window Nation today and lock in these limited-time savings when you need them the most. 866-90-NATION and pay 0 interest for 5 years. The life of your loan, and get 2 free windows with every 2 that you buy. 866-90-NATION or go to windownation.com. Tell them Hammer and Nigel sent you.
Owning a business comes with pressure. There's a limit to what I can do and still keep employees engaged. Fortunately, there's Insperity. They put 30-plus years of HR experience to work to help me with hiring, training, HR administration, and compliance, while giving my employees competitive benefit options. And because I'm able to focus on other priorities, my employees can thrive and my business can grow. With Insperity, nothing seems impossible. Insperity, HR that makes a difference.
They are our love bugs and companions. They are our pets, our family, and they make life better. When we face unexpected challenges, so do our pets. That's why we're on a mission to support people and their pets. Whether donating a bag of kibble, sharing an Instagram post of a lost cat, or welcoming a foster pet into your home, every bit of kindness counts. Visit petsandpeopletogether.org to learn how to be a helper in your community. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
I'm Joe Chiuro. China has deployed warplanes and ships near Taiwan after U.S. officials met with the Taiwanese president.
3 days of military drills in the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan's Ministry of Defense said that so far, multiple warships and more than 70 Chinese aircrafts have been detected near Taiwan, with the majority of them flying across the strait that separates the self-governing island from China. China's military is calling these combat readiness patrols.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff. A search in Florida for a 16-year-old wanted in connection with the murder of 3 teens. 2 other juveniles have already been arrested.
This whole scenario is tragic. There's nothing good in this entire scenario. You got 6 teens, which is ravishing not just my community, it's ravishing every community across this nation, where our youth are engaged in more criminal activity.
Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods. America is listening to Fox News.
Planning for retirement all comes down to what matters most for you. Is it a vacation home? Is it traveling the globe? You could call the team at Howard Bailey Financial to help you plan for your retirement and to help you have a successful and fulfilling retirement. Great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people, and I'm excited to share that Singer Financial is now Howard Bailey Financial, an Indiana-based retirement planning firm.
The Howard Bailey team possesses credibility at both an ethical and professional standpoint. They will deliver you a customized framework that allows you to create the meaning of retirement. Whatever you visualize retirement to be, let the Howard Bailey team customize a plan specifically for you. If you're ready for your best retirement, come forward and see the Howard Bailey difference.
Investment advisory services may be offered through Howard Bailey Securities, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Working with Howard Bailey Securities, LLC cannot guarantee investment success or that specific financial goals will be achieved.
Where are your life's most important memories stored? In your basement, right? Cracks in your foundation and high humidity could mean water is coming in your basement, eventually causing flooding, and you'll lose all your precious photos and memories. Crossroads Foundation Repair travels all over the region, repairing foundations with the highest quality service. Call now and get a free sump pump with full basement waterproofing system. Read our 5-star reviews at crossroadsfoundationrepair.com and call 844-975-6735.
My name is Teresa Barber. I was in the United States Navy and I served overseas in the Middle East and Africa. Early on in my career, I had a commander that taught our suicide prevention training, and the very next day he took his own life. 90% of suicide attempts involving a gun are fatal. My way of continuing my service is to help protect my community by being a responsible gun owner and by storing firearms safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So, by the way, one thing I want to make very, very, very sure of is that nobody thinks I'm predicting there's going to be any kind of violent riots or violent protests as part of the NRA annual meeting. I'm predicting exactly the opposite. I've been to, 7 or 8 annual meetings now over the last few years. Again, Louisville, Nashville, Atlanta, Houston. And there's always a handful of protesters. And hey, that's our right, man. I value those rights. I can disagree with what they say, but still absolutely love the fact that they have a right to come out and protest. And I would put my life on the line to defend anybody's constitutional rights, whether first or second, or any of the others, because they're that near and dear to me. So it's important, and they have a right to protest if they want to protest. Now, when we've seen protests, and there are instigators out there, we know that this Antifa group, which I still laugh at, supposedly means anti-fascism. Who are the fascists? You know, who are the people who want to not allow other messages to get out? Who are the people that want to use violence to communicate their message? Who are the people that will beat you up or kill you because they simply disagree with you on a particular issue? It's not gun owners. That's Antifa. So who are the fascists here? But there are groups out there, and I'm sure there's some out there would love to see some instigation, would love to see something approaching a riot. I am predicting exactly the opposite. I think it'll be a great meeting. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm going to spend as much time there as I possibly can, realizing I've got a full work schedule next week. But I plan on doing some appearances. And I wish NRA TV was still around because that was a lot of fun. I loved going on Grant Stinchfield's show every Wednesday. I did Dana Lash's show routinely, sometimes 2, 3 or more times a week, going on her show on NRA TV. I did a live show with Dana Lash from the NRA annual meeting when it was here in 2019. In fact, when we got church carry, and you've heard me talk about that before, when we got church carry passed, we got the free 5-year license passed, and we got my self-defense immunity bill. I say mine. I wrote it. Jim Lucas introduced it in the legislature and was the real hero of it there, with Ben Smaltz really leading the charge for both the free 5-year license as well as the church carry bill, which now allows us to carry a gun while attending a worship service or a religious ceremony, even if there's a school on the same grounds or in the same building. When we got all those things done, Governor Holcomb signed that bill from the stage at the leadership conference at the NRA annual meeting. And it was awesome. And right then I went straight from Governor Holcomb signing that during their leadership conference in the RCA Dome and hustled right down through the tunnel and back up into the convention center and did the Dana Lash show live from on NRA TV. So it was just a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun this year. I encourage everybody to come down and attend. I'd love to see a record-breaking crowd and have Indy be the largest NRA annual meeting ever. And that's my prediction. I think protest, counter-protest will be much ado about nothing. And we've seen that before. I mean, I laughed one time. I was in Nashville for the NRA annual meeting, and Moms Demand Action had about 18 people there. But I went by as they were staging a picture, and it was hilarious because they went over and they got on this slight hill. It was just right off a city park in downtown Nashville, Tennessee. And I love Nashville. I love hanging out in Nashville. Indy could learn a lot of lessons on how to attract tourists and entertainment and a lot of other good things to their downtown. Nashville has got that figured out, I think, pretty well, a little better than we do. But anyway, I was there in Nashville, and they were staging this picture for Moms Demand Action, and they were on this little hill where they had the photographer like almost lying on the ground, and then they had like 6 people wide in the picture frame with like 6 more people behind them, and they staggered them going up this hill. And I could tell what they were doing because they had somebody directing people around about where to stand and whatnot, and they took a real narrow field of view photo, and it made it look like there was this massive crowd of Moms Demand Action protesters there when literally there was less than 20. It was less than a couple of dozen, compared to like 80,000 gun owners who were there attending the annual meeting. So that part was a little bit laughable. I think that's what you're going to see at this year's meeting. But a lot of what we do here on the Gun Guy Show is education, right? A lot of what we do is talking about the law and how the law applies, including to different hypothetical scenarios. And one of those is what if? Well, let's even go back. More likely scenario is let's say if you were caught up in the protest down here in Indy during, again, as Hammer and Nigel say, the summer of love in 2020, when we saw a lot of destruction, we saw people lose their lives here in downtown Indy. You caught up in a riot situation, and it's violent, and people surround your car. What are the rules? How does the law of self-defense work in that situation? Well, first of all, I can tell you, and this is 1,000% true, and this is the strongest possible advice I can give you on this circumstance, is avoid it at all and every opportunity. You see what looks to be a riot, anything looks violent, anything unruly, people in the streets, you're in your vehicle, avoid. Because nothing good's going to happen. So if you can possibly avoid it, again, we have this mutual combatant rule. We have initial aggressor rule. What's that mean? If you're a mutual combatant, meaning you're willfully participating in a conflict, or you were the initial aggressor, you started the conflict, you can lose your ability to claim self-defense. And that was a big problem for Daniel Perry in Texas because he drove toward the protest when he could have driven a different direction. That was a big theory of the prosecution. And because of his social media posts, they said he was looking for the fight. He'd already said, I might have to shoot some people in the weeks prior to that protest unfolding and those events unfolding. So he's talking about shooting protesters. Then he drives toward a protest. Those were not good facts. And I'm not saying he's guilty of anything. Somebody approaches my car with an AK-47 during the middle of a damn riot, I'm going to be prepared to defend myself. So what's best option number one? Priority number one, avoid the whole damn thing. And look, it's not cowardly, it's prudent and smart to avoid any scenario where you might have to use deadly force. But let's say there's no opportunity. You're on a street, you come around a corner, and suddenly you're surrounded by protesters. Now, if they're just protesting, they're exercising their First Amendment rights, no harm, no foul. You have no ability to use force in self-defense or otherwise. But now let's say they're slapping your car, they're pounding on your car, they're pounding on your windows. You see somebody walking up to your window with a baseball bat on one side and a tire iron on the other. You remember the videos going all the way back to the Rodney King riots, right? Where you saw a truck driver during those riots get stopped in South Central LA and get pulled out of his car and beaten to death. I'll never forget a concrete block being thrown at that guy's head. Those images are fresh in your mind. Do I want to get hauled out of my vehicle and beaten to death in the middle of a protest or a riot? Of course not. So what's the law say? First thing to remember in that scenario, if you're in your vehicle, and again, I'm kind of using as an overlay here the facts of the Daniel Perry case and the law of Indiana. If you're in your vehicle, Indiana actually extends the same protection to your occupied motor vehicle. It's your car and it's occupied. We extend the same protections to your occupied motor vehicle as we do your home. Our castle doctrine, quote unquote, that says you can use reasonable force, including deadly force, to defend your home. If you reasonably believe that's necessary to prevent or terminate an unlawful entry of or attack on your home, your dwelling, in the words of the statute, we extend that to your occupied motor vehicle. So I can prevent or terminate an unlawful entry into or attack on my occupied motor vehicle, including with deadly force. And a lot of people will say, well, I drive a truck or a four-wheel drive vehicle, or, I'm surrounded. I'm just going to punch the gas. I'm going to put it to the floor because I'm now threatened. There's an unlawful attack on my vehicle going on. I can do what's necessary to get out of that. Here's the big problem. I talk about that exact scenario in my gun law class. Big problem. When someone's attacking your vehicle, can you defend yourself against that attack? Yes. What about innocent people who were just protesting, who were just exercising their First Amendment rights, who happen to be in the front of your car when you punch the gas? And keep in mind, there's going to be video, there's going to be surveillance video. They're going to get from the city. They're going to be people with their phones out, as they always are anymore. And there's the potential for someone to be, the high school honor student who's just exercising their First Amendment rights. They get run over in that scenario. They weren't the one pounding on your car. They weren't the one trying to break your window with a baseball bat. And you run over them. What's going to happen? You're going to go to jail. Again, that's why avoidance is so key. And people don't like hearing that. I get called all kinds of names. Oh, you don't really support the Second Amendment, or, oh, you don't respect people's rights. I'm going to defend myself when necessary, and I don't care what you have to say. Hey, I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm telling you what's smart and what's legal. That's why avoidance has got to be priority number one. But secondly, let's say that person is now swinging a tire iron or baseball bat, and they just broke my window. Now that same person's reaching in, trying to grab me and haul me out through the window. Is that an unlawful entry of or attack on my occupied motor vehicle? Yes. The law of the state of Indiana says I can defend myself with reasonable force in that scenario. And by the way, very importantly, he says there's no duty to retreat. Once that threat arises and that unlawful entry is attempted or underway, at that moment, now I no longer have any duty to retreat. I can defend myself. That's why we call it a stand your ground law. Now, is that a happy scenario? Is that going to end well in every circumstance? When we have a prosecutor like Ryan Mears here in Marion County? Oh, hell no. Do I think Ryan Mears would look for an opportunity to prosecute someone attending the NRA annual meeting in lieu of a protester downtown Indianapolis? I'll leave that question unanswered, but I think the question's rhetorical. But the law says you can defend yourself. However, keep in mind, how do you lose your ability to claim self-defense if you're the initial aggressor, or you're a mutual combatant, or you provoked the unlawful action? How can you get portrayed as doing any of those things? By driving toward the protest. That's what happened in Austin. Again, I'm not blaming Daniel Perry for any of this, but those facts did not help him, and I guarantee you led a long way toward assisting the prosecution and getting a guilty verdict. But the law says, because our Castle Doctrine applies to your occupied motor vehicle, you can defend that occupied motor vehicle. I'll tell you what, I'm a little past the 3/4 hour, so it's time to take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this discussion when we come back. We'll be right back for the last segment of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
Jeff Reitz, Guinness Book of World Records, the most consecutive visits to Disneyland. 2,995 days in a row.
Why didn't he just get a job there?
Great point, Kev! Maybe Kings Island will be his next conquest. I don't know.
That says greatest achievement.
Does he put that on his resume?
I don't think he has a resume.
Kendall and Casey. Weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. I'm talking a lot about self-defense tonight. Well, we get into a lot more detail on Essentials of Indiana gun law, and we have our next class coming up on Thursday, May 11th. This is a Thursday evening class, 5 p.m. to 9:30, so you don't have to go up a weekend morning, I should say. It's going to be at Indy Arms on the northeast side, $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. We'd love to see you there for 4.5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Mom, Dad, Sis?
Here we go again.
Why are you in a suit? Picture, if you will, a world with the best network imaginable. I'm talking about the Xfinity 10G network. Go on. Mom, remember how your reality shows wouldn't load with all of us online? Now you can binge. And Susie, we'll have fast internet in the basement.
Nice.
If you have any questions, here's my card.
This is just your name on a gum wrapper.
Introducing the 10G network only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Now through April 23rd, new customers can get 200 megabit Xfinity internet during our limited time Xfinity 10G network launch celebration for just $25 a month for 2 years. Plus, there's no annual contract required and you get Wi-Fi equipment included. Go to Xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and devices. Actual speeds vary.
AE Ammo is Greenwood's ammunition superstore. The largest variety in training, hunting, and self-defense ammo with the best prices locally guaranteed. Factory new 9mm FMJ ammo starting at $12 per 50-round box. Factory new 50-round boxes, $380 from $14.99 and 45 ACP from $18.99. And with the AE Ammo Customer Rewards Program, start earning points today towards money back to use on future purchases. Shop in-store or online at aeammo.com.
Denny Smith here. Spring's here at Sundown Gardens in Westfield. Right now, Sundown Gardens has 20% off all gift decor in Miss Mary's Gift Shop. Spruce your home up for spring with 20% off all gift decor. And don't forget to pick up your spring flowers and plants at Miss Mary's too. Sundown has a second location coming later this spring, Miss M's Home and Garden by Sundown Gardens in Bargersville on State Road 135. For now, visit Sundown Gardens at 186th Street and Spring Mill Road and also at sundowngardens.com.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
I spent a lot of time in the garage, but even more time in the rain and mud. In 95, I helped tow your moving trailer. And in 09, it was sparks from me, your chains, dragging behind your truck that accidentally started a wildfire.
Spark a change, not a wildfire. Visit SmokeyBear.com, brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Only you
can prevent wildfires.
There's a lot of sexy content on the internet. And there's WIBC, full of faces meant for radio. Hammer and Nigel, Kendall and Casey. Okay, Casey could be on TV. Now streaming every day on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/WIBC. Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for what's going to be a bit of a short last segment here on The Gun Guy Show. We're glad you stuck around. I hope you stick around for Ethan Hatcher and Saturday night on The Circle as well. So to wrap up that discussion, so yes, in your vehicle, because Indiana extends our castle doctrine that allows you to defend your home, you can use reasonable force, including deadly force, to prevent or terminate. You have to have this reasonable belief that you're preventing or terminating an unlawful entry into or attack of your occupied motor vehicle. You're out in public, the general self-defense statute applies as well, which is you can use reasonable force, including deadly force, to prevent a forcible felony or to prevent serious bodily injury to you or a third person. Now, that's what the rule says. That's what the law says. What's my personal philosophy? I will go a long way to avoid using any force against someone, much less deadly force. Now, if it comes down to it, will I defend my life, defend my family, more importantly? Absolutely, I will. It's one of the reasons I became an instructor, a competitive shooter, and why I train several times a year. I want to be equipped, prepared to do that if necessary. But that doesn't mean I want to. It's just the opposite. I will go a long way. Because listen, I've defended people who have used deadly force, who've shot someone. It's not a pleasant process. It's an expensive process. And there's every possibility, depending on the circumstances, you can actually be convicted of a crime. And we saw that with Daniel Perry in Austin here just last week. But the law allows you to use that force. The law also, because we have a stand your ground law, does not require you to run away first once you have that reasonable fear that you're preventing serious bodily injury, the commission of a forcible felony, or you're preventing or terminating that unlawful entry of or attack on your vehicle. That having said that, if I can get away from a protest, get away from an attack on my vehicle without using deadly force, will I do that every single time? Absolutely. I'll avoid it if I can. I'll run away from it as long as I'm not endangering someone else in the process. Oh, that sounds cowardly, Guy. Hey, knock yourself out. Call me names. That's what's smart. That's what's prudent. And I'll guarantee you Daniel Perry wishes he did that, whether he gets a pardon from Governor Abbott or not. That's it for this week's show. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you come back next week. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Indianapolis, do you have old, ugly, or even damaged concrete? Not